The moment Evan Calder stepped into the marketplace, the heat slammed into him like a solid wall. Not the distant, shimmering heat of a desert horizon. This was close, heavy, suffocating. The air carried the stink of burned oil, rusted metal, and hundreds of unwashed bodies pressed together. The market covered what had once been a settlement. Long before the wars turned the region into a wasteland of scrap, grit, and desperate survivors. Now only the skeletons of old buildings remained, draped with patched tarps and makeshift roofs. Merchants called out from every direction, offering tools that barely worked, food that might be edible, and weapons that probably weren't. Humans rarely passed through this place. So when Evan walked in, conversations dimmed. Dozens of non-human eyes, slit-pupiled, glowing, or surrounded by bone ridges, followed him with suspicion or hunger. He kept one hand clamped over the credits in his pocket, and the other near the chipped knife hanging from his belt. He came here for one thing, a sturdier blade, something reliable, something that wouldn't snap when his life depended on it. A gnarled hand shot from a stall and clamped onto his sleeve. No blades today, traveler. Evan turned. The speaker was an elderly merchant. His skin darkened like baked leather, his eyes sharp beneath a layer of dust. His stall was almost empty. Only a few corroded tools and coils of wire. Hardly worth stopping for. "I'm not buying junk," Evan muttered. "You're not here for junk," the merchant insisted, his cracked grin revealing gaps where teeth once were. "You're here for opportunity." He tugged Evan closer before he could pull away. "One purchase," the merchant whispered, "and your entire life changes." Evan frowned. "Not interested." "Oh, you will be." With a flourish, he yanked aside a heavy tarp. Inside the crate was a girl, but not human. Evan's thoughts stalled as he tried to understand what he was seeing. Her skin was a deep, rich blue, darker than twilight. Even curled into a painfully tight position, she was massive, well over 7 feet tall as she stood straight. Her limbs were thick, with rope muscle beneath bruises. She wore nothing but torn strips of dirty cloth, but it was a device around her head that froze Evan in place. A cage, not a helmet, a full cage made of iron bars. The metal was welded directly to a thick collar fused around her neck. The lattice was so tight she couldn't slip a finger through it. The rings built into the collar glowed faintly with orange light, ancient clan technology that pulsed like dying embers. No magic, just old, unforgiving engineering from a time no one fully understood anymore. The girl's breath came shallow and quick. Her golden eyes locked onto Evan with predator intensity mixed with sheer panic. "Stronger than any labor beast," the merchant said proudly. "Worth 10 fighters. Just keep the cage on. She becomes difficult without it." Evan's stomach twisted. This is a person. The merchant's shrug was cold. Not to the people who forged that cage. The girl flinched when he approached. Chain snapped taut, cutting deeper into raw skin around her wrists. Blood welled up. Her voice came out hoarse and frightened. "Don't come closer. You're sent. If my clan smells it on me, they'll kill me. Human scent marks us. They can track it." Evan blinked. "What are you talking about?" But the merchant barked at her. "Quiet, merchandise." Evan's hand moved instinctively toward his knife. "You touch her again, I swear." The merchant raised both hands, amused. "Look at that. Already protective. Good instincts. 300 credits, and she's yours. Cage included. Removal voids a deal, and probably your life." Evan hesitated, horror battling with helplessness. She was intelligent. She spoke. She understood everything that was happening to her. The cage wasn't just punishment. It was torment. He should walk away. He should alert someone. He should do anything except what he was about to do. Her eyes found his. Eyes empty of hope, empty by years of believing no one would ever help her. And that was what broke him. Evan handed over every credit he had saved for months. All of it. The sale completed. The merchant stepped aside, grinning. Then a sharp whistle cut through the market. The crowd split like water. 3 tall warriors entered, blue skin like the cage girl, wearing dark wrappings and featureless masks. They moved with lethal precision. The one in front removed her mask. The resemblance was unmistakable. The cage girl stiffened. "Sister," she breathed. The warrior's golden eyes burned with fury as she stared at Evan. "You bought our criminal," she said. "Now her curse belongs to you." The warrior woman stepped close enough that Evan felt the heat radiating from her skin. Her expression was carved from steel. Her golden eyes fixed on him like he was an insect she hadn't decided whether to crush or ignore. Behind him, the girl in the cage struggled to shrink away inside the crate, chains rattling as she curled tighter. The warrior spoke again, each word clipped and heavy. "You purchase a condemned. That means you accept the burden tied to her sentence." Evan's grip tightened on the crate edge. "What sentence?" Another warrior to the left lifted her spear. "Silence. She belongs to our clan. Her punishment is ours to uphold." But the first woman raised a hand, silencing the others without looking at them. "If he bought her, then he holds a responsibility. Law is law." Her voice was calm, but beneath it simmered anger deep enough to scorch stone. She tapped her chest. "I am Saret, first daughter of the Blue Ridge clan. That creature," she jabbed a finger toward the cage, "is Rava. My blood, my disgrace." Rava stiffened, pressing her forehead to the bars. Evan stepped in front of the crate, without thinking. "I'm taking her. We're leaving." Saret stared at him like he'd grown a second head. "You misunderstand. By touching her, by purchasing her, you bind yourself to her punishment. She wears that cage until death. If you remove it, you die with her. If she dies wearing it, the burden ends with her." "That's insane," Evan said. "That's not justice. That's survival." Saret's gaze sharpened. "Our law exists for good reason. Humans and our kind do not mix. Contact spreads corruption. She broke the oldest rule by saving one of your children." Behind him, Ravel whispered, trembling, "I told you, they always know." The merchant happily stepped aside, pretending none of this involved him anymore. Evan didn't think. He grabbed the crate's handle and pulled. Hard. The wood screeched and scraped across the sand as he dragged it backward, away from Saret, away from the crowd. People scattered. Warriors didn't follow, not right away. They watched, calculating, waiting. That scared him more than if they had attacked. He hauled the crate through a maze of crumbling alleys until he reached the shadow of a half-collapsed water tower, leaning at a dangerous angle. Here the noise of the market faded, leaving only harsh wind and his own ragged breathing. Rava crouched inside the crate, trembling. She didn't beg, didn't plead, just stared at him through iron bars with a quiet, defeated look that punctured his chest. Evan pried at the wrist chains. Rusted locks resisted at first, groaning like old bones, then snapped open with a shriek. The chains fell away. Rava didn't run. She folded her arms around herself and curled tighter, like freedom was too painful to believe. Evan knelt. "Why is your sister hunting you?" Rava's voice was barely a whisper. "The cage isn't for tracking. It's punishment. A reminder. No one is allowed to remove it. Not family. Not elders. Saving a human child broke the sacred laws. They call it contamination." She laughed bitterly. "The cage is mercy. The alternative was execution." Evan sank back against the crate. "You saved a child and they did this to you? That's our law. The child wasn't clan. And you humans have killed us for generations. My kind survives by strict rules." Evan shook his head. "Those rules are broken." A breath of wind whispered between broken walls. Too quiet, too still. Then a spear slammed into the ground inches from Evan's leg, embedding deep into the sand. Saret's voice echoed like a blade, sliding free. "Found you." Warriors emerged from the ruins, 10, maybe more, surrounding them in a tightening circle. Evan stepped in front of Ravo again. Saret's eyes narrowed. "A human shields a criminal? You insult our law." Ravo's voice cracked behind him. "Sister," he didn't know. "Let him go. Please." "You made the purchase," Saret snapped. "He carries your disgrace now." Evan lifted a bent piece of rebar like it was a sword. "You want her, you go through me." Saret's laugh was cold. "Then you die first." She gave a signal. Warriors advanced. In the moment the first spear swung toward him, everything erupted into chaos. The first warrior rushed Evan with the speed of a hunting beast. His training blade, just a bent piece of rebar, barely came up in time. Metal met metal with a jarring crack that sent shocks up his injured arm. The warrior spun with inhuman grace, sweeping her spear toward his ribs. Evan twisted aside, but not far enough. Pain detonated across his side as the wooden shaft slammed into him. His breath left in a single broken gasp. He staggered, half blind from the impact. Another warrior advanced. A third circled behind him. They weren't trying to kill him immediately. They were testing him, breaking him down slowly, showing him how hopeless resistance was. Behind him, Rava screamed through the bars. "Evan, move!" He ducked just in time, a blade slicing the air where his neck had been. The rebar bent further with each impact, groaning in protest. Evan swung anyway, catching a warrior's arm. Something cracked, but the warrior barely flinched. She slammed the butt of her spear into his forearm. He felt skin split under the blow. Blood splattered the sand. Rava gasped like she'd been struck. "No, your blood touched it." Her words shook with terror. Evan didn't understand until he saw the cage. The metal wasn't glowing faintly anymore. It was igniting. Deep red light pulsed across every bar, symbols whirling around the embedded rings like gears waking after centuries of sleep. The runes rotated, clicked, shifted into new configurations. The cage began to vibrate. The warriors froze. Saret's expression, once carved from fury, flickered with horror. "No," she whispered. "Not the oath. Not that." But it was too late. A thin red beam dropped from the collar to the sand, straight down, like a needle piercing the earth. The ground shuddered beneath them. Every warrior in the circle flinched as a ripple rolled outward, an invisible pulse. A shock wave through blood. Rava shrieked and pressed her hands against the bars. "Evan, don't touch it. If you touch the cage now, it will burn you alive." The cage responded to human blood. Old clan tech built for warfare. A bond weapon. A binding device. Not just punishment. A sentence. A pairing. Evan stared at the glowing iron and understood. He had become part of her curse simply by bleeding near it. Saret choked, voice unsteady for the first time. "You have awakened the oath. A forbidden bond. Break the cage and it kills you both. Let it complete and you are bound for life." Evan wiped blood from his arm, his breath coming sharp and uneven. Rava's eyes missed through the bars, wide with terror. "Please, don't touch it. It's not worth it. Let them take me." But Evan had seen the hopelessness in her eyes before. He wasn't going to walk away. Not again. Not from her. He stepped toward the cage. Rava shouted, "Stop! It will kill you!" He grabbed the iron. The world went white. Searing pain ripped through his palms as the metal hissed like molten stone plunged into water. His skin burned immediately, flesh charring on contact. Smoke rose from his hands. His muscles spasmed, but he didn't let go. Saret shouted, "Human, the oath kills anyone who breaks it. Stop." He didn't stop. He pulled. The cage resisted with crushing force. Runes spun faster, glowing brighter. Heat pulsed through the metal like a living heartbeat, scorching deeper into him. Rava sobbed, unable to do anything but watch. "Please, Evan, it's killing you." But he wasn't listening to pain anymore. He was listening to her. He braced his foot in the sand and pulled with every shred of strength left in him. The cage buckled, then cracked, then shattered. Iron burst outward in glowing fragments. Pieces rained across the sand like shattered embers. The collar split and fell, still steaming. The chains crumbled into rust. Silence swallowed everything. Rava lifted trembling hands to her face, touching her own skin for the first time in years. Her breath hitched, and she began to sob openly. Evan collapsed to his knees, hands smoking, barely conscious. He tried to speak. No sound came. Saret stepped forward slowly, disbelief etched across her face. "You broke the unbreakable." She shook her head in awe and fear. "There is no law for this. No precedent. You too, you are something our clan has never seen. Rava crawled from a ruined crate and caught Evan before he fell face first into the sand. She held his weight easily, her strength wrapping around him like a shield. "You freed me," she whispered, tears streaking her cheeks. "And you doomed yourself with me." Evan managed a pained, delirious smile. "Worth it." Then the war horn blasted across the wasteland. Not one, not three, dozens. A sound that made every warrior stiffen. Saret's face drained of color. "No, no." They called a full tribunal. Rava tensed. "For us? For both of you," Saret whispered. Every elder, every judge, every warrior. They felt the oath ignite. "They are coming." Figures appear across the ruins. Dozens and scores, descending from every direction. The clan was assembling, not to hunt, to judge. The ruined streets filled with warriors until Evan and Rava stood in the center of a living circle. Blue-skinned fighters, masked elders, silent observers perched on broken rooftops. Weapons gleamed in the fading light. Dust drifted through the air like ash. Evan tried to rise, but his legs buckled. Rava tightened her grip, holding him upright with one arm around his waist. Her strength was effortless, but her body trembled with exhaustion and fear. Through the remnants of the oath's awakening, she felt every pulse of pain burning in his ruined hands. The warriors parted as a figure approached. An elderly woman, thin as bone but moving with a presence that made even Saret lower her head. Her hair was braided with dark metal rings, her eyes ancient and sharp. For armed guards walked beside her. She stopped in front of Evan and Rava. This had to be an elder. No, the elder, the one whose word was law. Her voice carried like wind over stone. "Explain." One word, heavy as judgment. Saret stepped forward and knelt. "Elder Corin, I will speak." Corin's gaze drifted to her. "You may." Saret's voice was steady despite the tension. "The human purchased Rava from a merchant who captured her illegally. I sought to enforce the punishment terms. During the conflict, his blood touched the cage. The oath activated. He broke the cage with his bare hands and lived." A ripple passed through the warriors. Shock, fear, anger. Corin turned to Evan. "And why did you intervene?" His throat was raw. Every breath scraped him inside. "Because what you were doing to her is wrong." Warriors growled. A dozen weapons twitched upward. Corin silenced them with a flick of her fingers. "You claim to know our laws?" she asked. "I don't," Evan admitted. "But I know that punishing someone for saving a child is madness." Rava lowered her gaze, shame burning across her features. "Elder, I broke the rule. Contact with a human outside battle is forbidden. I should have let the child die." Corin's voice was softened by a fraction. "And yet you did not." "I could not," Rava whispered. She was innocent. Corin studied her, then studied Evan. "You risked your life for her," she said, "and you shattered an object meant to bind warriors in blood oath pairs. Do you know what that means?" "No," Evan said honestly. Rava swallowed. "He doesn't understand." Corin clasped her hands behind her back. "The oath is not simply a bond. It ties two lives into a single thread. If one dies, the other follows. If one suffers, the other feels it. Distance causes pain. Separation more than a mile causes collapse. You are no longer two individuals. You are one merged fate." Evan's heart dropped. "We didn't choose this," he said. "No," Corin replied, "but your blood and will chose for you." She turned to Saret. "Tell him the law." Saret's jaw clenched. Her voice was tight. "The breaker becomes a counterpart, a protector, an equal, not a slave, not a prisoner, a bond partner." Corin nodded. "You are bound," she declared. "The clan must either accept this bond or reject it." A hush fell over every warrior. Rava stiffened. "Reject, what does that mean?" "Exile," Corin said. "And death. For both." The silence deepened. Rava's grip tightened around Evan. "I accept the bond," she said quickly. "I accept whatever consequence comes." Every eye turned to Evan. His hands throbbed with each heartbeat. His ribs ached. His body screamed for rest. But he looked at Rava, at her raw wrists, at her tear-stained face, at the shattered cage gleaming in the sand. "I accept," he said. Rava's breath hitched. A tiny, broken sound. Corin nodded once. "Then it is done. Rava of the Blue Ridge clan is pardoned. Evan Calder is adopted into the clan. You are recognized as a bonded pair under ancient law." Warriors dropped to one knee. The entire circle bowing to Corin's judgment. Even Sarah knelt, though her jaw twitched with conflicting emotions. Evan swayed. Rava supported him. Corin turned, her robes brushing the dirt. "Train them," she told Sarah. "Prepare them. Their path will not be simple." Then she left, her guards following her into the shadowed dusk. As soon as she was gone, the warriors rose. Some stared with distrust, others with awe, a few with thinly veiled hatred. Rava lowered herself and eased Evan onto sand. His breath came in shallow bursts. "You saved me," she whispered, voice trembling. "You freed me." Evan managed a weak smile. "We saved each other." Sarah approached, kneeling between them. For the first time, she didn't look angry. She looked conflicted. "The oath isn't a blessing," she said quietly, "but neither is it a curse." She met Evan's eyes. "It's a beginning." Night settled over the wasteland like a heavy bruise. The sky streaked in dark violet and fading ember red. Campfires flickered across the clan's temporary settlement as warriors moved quietly, their gazes darting toward Evan and Rava with a mix of curiosity, unease, and unspoken questions. Rava stayed close to him, not out of fear, but because the oath pulled them toward each other like gravity. Evan felt it too, a tug beneath the ribcage, a low hum in the blood. If he drifted too far, something inside him tightened, warning him that distance meant danger. Sarah guided them to a small shelter, a repurposed cargo container with 2 thin sleeping mats and barely enough room to sit without bumping into metal walls. "This will be yours," she said, "until training completes." Evan looked around. "Cozy." Rava elbowed him gently. Even that tiny touch carried an echo of emotion through the oath, her exhaustion, her nervousness, her strange, fragile hope. Sarah watched them carefully. "You will feel each other more strongly by morning," she warned. "The oath deepens with rest." "What does that mean?" Evan asked. "You'll see," Sarah replied. "Eat, patch your wounds, and sleep. Tomorrow we begin." She left without another word. Inside the shelter, the air felt strangely intimate. Rava sat on one mat, pulling her knees to her chest, her golden eyes luminous in the dim light. Evan eased down onto the other mat, his injuries protesting every movement. His bandaged hands throbbed relentlessly. Rava's gaze dropped to them. "Your hands, they hurt." "You can tell," he asked. She nodded. "I don't hear your thoughts. Not clearly, but I feel them, like pressure underwater." Evan looked at her wrists, raw where the chains had torn skin. "Do you feel mine too? What you've been through?" Her breath caught. Some of it. Silence settled thickly between them. "I'm sorry," Rava murmured. "You shouldn't have to carry that." "Maybe I should," Evan said softly. "Maybe that's what being bonded means." She turned her head away as if his answer had struck something fragile inside her. Minutes passed. Maybe hours. Exhaustion pressed on both of them like a heavy blanket. Just when Evan began to drift toward sleep, he heard something scrape outside. Slow, deliberate, too quiet to be a wandering warrior. He sat up instantly. Rava felt his alarm before he voiced it. She snapped upright, muscles tensing. The steps stopped just outside their shelter. Evan held his breath. Rava leaned forward, listening. Then the sound retreated. Someone had been standing there, listening, watching. Rava exhaled shakily. "We're not safe yet, even with the elder's judgment. Some in the clan won't accept this bond." "Your sister?" Evan asked. "No," Rava said quickly. "Sarah follows the law. Others don't." Evan met her gaze. "Then we stay alert." "Together," she whispered. The oath pulsed, acknowledging the word. Hours later, sleep finally crept over them both. Evan closed his eyes, and the moment he drifted off, he fell into a dream that wasn't his. He was small, running through a settlement he didn't recognize. Intact buildings, clean air, laughter drifting on warm winds. Then flames erupted, screams, falling rubble, a cage being welded shut around a girl, crying out for mercy, for freedom, for someone to help her. Rava. But there was something else, a shadow standing in the back of the memory, watching, not intervening, eyes glowing orange. Evan tried to move closer, but the dream shattered like glass. He woke, gasping. Across from him, Rava sat upright, breathing fast, eyes wide. "You saw it," she whispered. "Someone was there the day they locked the cage. Someone I forgot. The oath made me remember." Evan rubbed his eyes. "Then we need to find out who." Rava nodded slowly. "Yes." The night passed with both of them half awake, listening for footsteps that never returned. When morning came, it arrived harsh and unforgiving. Sunlight crashed into the container as Sarah kicked the metal wall. "Up," she said. "Training begins now." Evan groaned. "Already?" "Already," Sarah repeated. "Bonded pairs don't get rest. Get moving." Rava stood first and offered her hand. The moment Evan took it, a rush of her emotions, worry, determination, lingering fear, flooded into him. The oath was getting stronger. "So this is normal?" he asked. Rava managed a faint smile. "Welcome to my world." Outside, the entire camp was awake. Warriors sparred. Steel clashed. Dust swirled around beating feet. Every eye turned toward them. Sarah gestured to the training ground. "Let's see if your bond makes you a liability or a weapon." Evan swallowed. Rava stepped forward. Together, they walked into the arena. The morning sun hit like a hammer, bleaching the wasteland into blinding gold. Warriors moved in rhythmic drills across the camp, their movements sharp, efficient, deadly. Dust rose beneath their feet, swirling in the heated air. Evan and Rava stepped toward the training grounds as dozens of eyes tracked them, some curious, some hostile, others calculating. Sarah waited at the center, arms crossed, her expression unreadable. A rack of practice weapons stood behind her. Curved blades for Rava's kind, smaller balanced knives for humans. She studied them both like a blacksmith assessing flawed metal. "Bonded pairs fight as a single body," she said. "If one fails, the other falls. If one hesitates, both die." Her gaze sharpened. "Today we begin shaping you into something useful." Evan rubbed his bandaged palms. "Great. Can't wait." Rava shot him a warning glance. Sarah ignored him and tossed him a training blade. He caught it awkwardly. Pain spiked through his hand, and Rava flinched at the same moment, her eyes narrowing at his discomfort echoing through the oath. "This is pointless," Sarah said. "Your hands are wrecked." Evan bristled. "They'll heal." "They will," she agreed, "because the oath will force your bodies to adapt. But until then, you will learn to fight through agony." She turned to Rava. "Show him the defensive stance." Rava moved beside him, gently adjusting his grip, correcting the angle of his feet, positioning his shoulders. Every adjustment rippled through the bond, her calm focus balancing his tension, her memory guiding his untrained instinct. It felt like learning to dance with a partner who knew the steps before he did. "Ready?" Sarah asked. "No." Evan said. "Good." She attacked without warning. Her blade flashed toward his ribs. Rava intercepted it smoothly. A second strike came at Evan's head. He ducked just in time, the motion flowing naturally from Rava's shifts. Each attack forced him closer in sync, every movement calibrated by the shared pulse of the oath. But Sarah didn't relent. A sweeping kick knocked Evan sideways. Pain flared across his chest. Rava snarled, her blade catching Sarah's wrist, protecting him with a speed that startled even Sarah. "You're too slow together," Sarah snapped. "Move like you're one creature, not two who barely tolerate each other." Hours passed. Sweat streaked Evan's face. Dust clung to Rava's skin. His burns pulsed with each heartbeat, but he forced himself to push through it. Each time he faltered, Rava felt his pain surge through the bond, and she steadied him with a firm touch, her presence anchoring him. By midday, Evan was trembling. His hands throbbed so fiercely he could barely hold a practice blade. Sarah stopped abruptly. "Enough." Evan collapsed onto sand, gasping. Rava knelt beside him, supporting his weight, her hand on his back. "You're improving," Sarah admitted. "Barely, but improvement nonetheless." Evan laughed weakly. "Barely is generous." Rava helped him sit upright. "You didn't die. That's progress." Sarah smirked. "Optimistic as always, sister." Later, after a brief rest in water, they followed Sarah to a makeshift training course built from broken beams, rope lines, and rusted scaffolding. "This is where we test coordinated movement," Sarah said. "Fail once, and the drop will teach you more than I can." Rava went across the first obstacle, a narrow beam, like it was nothing. Evan followed, wobbling, feeling his balance through her presence. Halfway across, his foot slipped. He fell. Not far, not hard, but the oath reacted instantly. A sharp, wrenching shock tore through both their chests. Rava gasped. Evan felt her panic through the bond, reflexive, primal terror at losing him. She caught his arm and hauled him up. Her voice shook. "Do not fall again. The oath reacts to distance. Too much separation, and it will tear us apart." Evan nodded. No pressure. By the end of the course, they were covered in dust and sweat, but they finished together, barely. Sarah nodded. "Acceptable. You're starting to understand what you are." "What are we?" Evan asked. Sarah hesitated. "Something dangerous. Something new. And the clan will expect more of you than survival." That night, exhaustion hit like a tidal wave. In their shelter, they lay inches apart, both too tired to move. Rava broke the silence. "Do you regret any of this?" Evan turned his head toward her. "No." She smiled, small, tired, real. "Good. Because this bond, it doesn't end. Not ever." He didn't look away. "I know." Rava closed her eyes. "And I'm glad." The oath pulsed between them, steady, warm, alive. Two lives, one thread. Two warriors, one fate. And for the first time since this began, Evan didn't feel like he had lost anything. He felt like he had found something worth bleeding for.